As a board member, I think it is very thoughtful, comprehensive, and bold plan. One, it reflects a strong commitment to removing barriers to service, expanding opportunities, and focusing service on our most critical challenge. I like the plan's focus on alleviating poverty and addressing longstanding inequities. Its commitment to increasing living allowance and stipends to ensure service is a viable option for all, and the strong focus, effective stewardship of federal resources. As someone who spent their career encouraging young people to enter careers in politics and public service, I also appreciate the focus of the third goal, united Americans by bringing them together through service. At this time of enormous division and isolation, service does something very powerful. It helps to heal and unite our communities. The agency's work to strengthen the nation's volunteer sector, elevate awareness of service, and grow volunteering will not just help meet local needs, it will help build bridges and strengthen our democracy at a time when it's most needed. With that, I'd like to turn this over to Alvin or Fagan to share any thoughts on the strategic plan that you might have.
Thank you.
Alvin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. I also think the agency has developed a thoughtful plan that'll drive greater impact by focusing resources and measuring progress in a coordinated way. First and foremost, I appreciate the plan's strong focus excuse me, on alleviating poverty, advancing racial equity, and reducing systemic barriers to full and equal participation in AmeriCorps programs. The plan boldly expresses this commitment and lays out a number of strategies to advance this goal. One of those is increasing the living allowance and stipends for AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers, which I know the board as a whole supports wholeheartedly. We heard from members this morning about the living allowance and stipends and how that serves not just to reduce the quality of the experience of our current members and volunteers, but as a barrier to recruitment and to participation. We are losing out on very good individuals who would be perfect members and volunteers, and the board and our staff and leadership are working to address that. Also, to meet today's complex social and economic challenges, we need full participation from people of diverse backgrounds that actually represent the full spectrum of our country, especially those from underserved populations. So increasing the living allowance will help recruit and retain more diverse members and volunteers that reflect the communities we serve and support a meaningful, positive, and equitable service experience. I also appreciate the focus on prioritizing investments in the most underserved individuals and communities. National Service has a presence in Indigenous and rural communities, but the opportunities and needs are both great. I look forward to working with my colleagues here on the board and on staff and Michael to ensure that more resources and service opportunities flow to these and other underserved communities where they can have a powerful impact, particularly to tribal nations to whom our federal government has a trust responsibility. The board also recognizes that national service is built on partnerships and appreciates how the agency has actively sought input from state commission agencies, grantees, project sponsors around the country in developing the plan. After all, you all are the ones who will be turning this plan into action, and your voices are very important. So we encourage this dialogue to continue as we all work to implement the plan.
Thank you. Fagan?
I agree with the great points that Alvin and Kathy have made and would like to add one more. I strongly support the focus of the second goal on enhancing the experience of AmeriCorps members and volunteers by providing the resources they need to complete their service, including raising the living allowance and stipends. And by strengthening pathways to education and employment, service should be an on-ramp for a career, should be an on-ramp for education, should be an on-ramp for training, should be an on-ramp to advancement. When speaking about national service, we most often talk about the positive impact on the beneficiaries and communities. And this is important. The improvement in student reading levels, the disaster survivors served, the seniors who are now able to live independently. But to me, what's equally important about national service is its impact on the members themselves. And we need to continue to point this out. And we need to walk the walk And that's why increasing the living allowance and the stipend is so important. That's why strengthening the tie to education and employment is so important. These young people have so much idealism, passion, and grit for their community, and we can't let them down. This is our moment to step up and to serve them as they continue to serve our communities and serve our country. I do a lot of work to reimagine recruiting, hiring, and career advancement for underestimated communities. It's what we do at Baltimore Corps. I have seen how the skills and hands-on experience that AmeriCorps members gain during their service can prepare them for jobs and careers. Those skills are both specific to their service, and the general skills of leadership, grit, and problem solving are what our employers are looking for. You don't need to look far to understand that there are a record 10 million unfilled jobs in this country, the highest in our history. The barrier to filling these jobs is often a mismatch between what's available and the prospective employee's job skills. National service can and should help us close that skills gap, including in especially high job growth sectors such as education, health services, construction, logistics. This strategy is especially critical for young people from low-income backgrounds who face the toughest prospects for employment. This country has such opportunity, and service really should be the bridge to help more individuals and communities connect to that opportunity. That's vitally important.
Thank you. Thank you both. That was great. And I would like to entertain a motion to approve the strategic plan. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor say yes.
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 Yes. All opposed? The resolution is approved. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce our CEO, Michael Smith. Michael has done an extraordinary job since taking the helm of the agency in January, bringing his decades of experience in public and nonprofit sector to help AmeriCorps increase its impact and effectiveness. Since arriving, Michael has made it a top priority to drive greater impact on community problems, make service more equitable and inclusive, and using service to help bridge the divides that bring people together. Michael, the floor is yours.
Kathy, thank you so much, and greetings to all who have joined us today. Let me start off by sharing how excited and grateful we are to have such outstanding leaders serving on the AmeriCorps Board of Directors. Kathy, Alvin, and Fagan bring an extraordinary breadth of knowledge and experience in workforce development, Indigenous communities, K-12 and higher education, rural economic development, philanthropy, social innovation, and more. We are very fortunate to have all of you serving on our board, and we have already benefited from your insights and wisdom. And I think everyone who's watching today got a glimpse of that already. Since becoming CEO 4 months ago, I can't believe it's been 4 months, I have had the opportunity to meet hundreds of AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers, as well as our state commissioners, grantees, project sponsors, partners, and others who carry out our vital mission on the ground. I've seen the great work our programs do, especially in critical areas of need, like addressing the COVID-19 crisis, tutoring and mentoring youth, preserving public lands, supporting food banks, strengthening workforce preparedness, and much more. With every project I visit and every member or volunteer I meet, I am more convinced of the power and the potential of national service. It is a privilege to lead this agency, and I share the board's gratitude for the extraordinary passion, commitment, and dedication of our staff, our grantees, our members, our volunteers, and everyone that is a part of what we like to call our AmeriFamily. Over the past 2 years, our country has faced a series of unprecedented challenges: a once-in-a-century global pandemic, the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, a national reckoning on racial inequity that has been centuries in the making, and the growing and existential threat of climate change. In the face of these challenges, the work of our members and volunteers has become even more important. This is a moment of tremendous need and opportunity for national service. We have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to not just return to the way things were before, but to build a stronger and more united nation. I came into office with 3 core themes in my vision for this agency that was based on conversations that I've had with people all over this country: AmeriCorps volunteers, AmeriCorps members, staff, and many of you that are with us today. These priorities continue to shape the work as I look ahead to my next 100 days and beyond. The first thing we have to do is ensure that Americans see the critical importance and impact of national service to our democracy. My priority is making sure that when people think of AmeriCorps, they think about its impact, not about 1,000 flowers blooming. And I am proud to say that last year, nearly 70% of our AmeriCorps grantees had strong or moderate levels of impact. We will not be satisfied as an agency by simply celebrating how many AmeriCorps members or senior volunteers are serving. We will celebrate the measurable, tangible impact that they have on the toughest challenges that we're facing. Second, AmeriCorps must reflect the rich diversity of our country and the communities that we serve. I am proud of the fact that AmeriCorps members are more racially diverse than the nation as a whole. We will build on the strong diversity we see in our programs today with a focus on recruiting from communities we serve. And I think in just a couple days that we've been together, we've been able to meet so many AmeriCorps members right here in DC who are from DC, serving in DC. And I've seen that all over the country, and it makes me so happy. But to sustain the positive outcomes we've seen from recent years, we must act to ensure national service is accessible by reducing barriers to serve and funding organizations of all shapes and sizes with diverse, homegrown leadership that are meeting urgent community needs. And my third priority is to unite Americans in service, which has been a topic of our time together. For decades, AmeriCorps has played a meaningful role in bringing people together across differences from all walks of life. There's something that is powerful about service, about rolling up our sleeves together to respond to disaster, to help children stay in school and on track, to improve the health outcomes of underserved communities. There's something about service that allows us to see each other's humanity, that building bridges together, that creates bonds that strengthen communities and leads to lasting change. This is what AmeriCorps is, and we can play an even more central role to overcome polarization and division. So as we look ahead, in addition to these priorities, after 4 months on the job and hearing from many partners, 3 areas have come into more focus, which we've discussed extensively with the board. First, we are facing an unprecedented challenge coming out of the pandemic and recruiting and retaining a strong, diverse core that we know we can have, and we have to do something about that. We must continue to raise living allowances and stipends to make service more accessible for those who want to serve. And what's so important to me on that is this is not just about ensuring that we meet our recruitment goals. It's not just about making sure that we have a diverse core that represents the diversity of our nation, but it also is about saying that if we are asking you to serve your country and your community, that you can have a full stomach and that you can have a roof over your head and not have to worry while you are serving your community and country. And finally, we must continue to make the operational improvements necessary to support the vital work of our grantees, members, and volunteers in the field, which is I am so grateful to hear about the reestablishment of the Oversight Committee, because that is work that is a clear priority for me, and I look forward to working with all of you on it. I want to talk a little bit about the dedication of our members and the support of our partners that are allowing us to make some pretty excellent progress against these priorities. If I could, I'd just like to share a few. One, we continue to implement the historic $1 billion investment through the American Rescue Plan to expand service opportunities, increase grantee sustainability, increase living allowances, and reach underserved communities and individuals. The agency is implementing these funds quickly and responsibly, and you will be hearing from some of our AmeriCorps members that represent this extraordinary work in just a few minutes, our AmeriCorps members and our senior volunteers. Last month, we launched Public Health AmeriCorps. I get a smile when I talk about it because I am so excited about what this $400 million partnership with the Centers for Disease Control means for this agency and about the future of the work that we're going to do. It's going to help us meet state and local public health needs while developing workforce pathways for public health careers. Public Health AmeriCorps is a first of its kind response to the disproportionate impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and social determinants of health. These new AmeriCorps members will add capacity to the strained public health system and build a career pathway for future public health leaders from underserved communities. We've talked a lot while we've been together that we don't have to have this argument anymore about whether or not AmeriCorps is about strengthening communities or strengthening members. It has to be both. And Public Health AmeriCorps is a great example of that happening. We've released our new 5-year strategic plan our comprehensive blueprint, which Kathy so beautifully outlined, and it was wonderful to hear how it resonates with all of you. We released our equity action plan, which reinforces our commitment to advance equity and support for underserved communities by creating structural and lasting change in our grant making, member recruitment and retention, and workplace. Someone said yesterday that old business adage, if it is not measured, it is not managed. And so we will not just talk about equity at AmeriCorps, we will measure it, we will have a plan against it, and we will make sure that we continue to make sure that we take action against that equity action plan. And for everyone that is with us today, I want to make sure that a part of this commitment, last week we released our request for information, inviting the public to comment on a range of questions related to grantee matching requirements. And we hope to hear from a wide range of stakeholders by the June 10th deadline. So please follow up with that. We submitted our FY 2023 budget to Congress, a robust request, which increases funding for our agency by more than 16% over last year. We continue to be deeply engaged with our colleagues at the White House and other federal agencies on expanding our program to address climate change and prepare young people for future green jobs. We are building a strong, diverse team of world-class professionals that have a track record of success, including welcoming our first ever Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, who will start with us very soon, our Director of Public Health AmeriCorps, who just started, a Chief Modernization Officer, a Chief Data Officer, a centralized recruitment team, and many other positions that are filling the ranks so that we can serve you better. We are making steady progress on our #1 priority of improving financial management and addressing findings from the financial statements audit. This includes working with our Office of Inspector General, adding staff capacity, and developing corrective action plans for each finding that identify the root causes, action steps, milestones, timelines, and responsible parties for correcting them. We continue to execute the core work, which is our grant making, announcing our 3rd round of AmeriCorps senior grants totaling more than $10.5 million last week. And soon we will be awarding hundreds of millions of dollars for AmeriCorps state and national grantees and our tribal grants. So this is just a partial list that does not include the ongoing work of our programs that are meeting a wide range of critical needs in communities across the country. We must continue to do this work. And there's exciting work that's happening for Afghan refugees and expanding access to the child tax credit, strengthening food security and combating the opioid crisis, and so much more. So for nearly 3 decades, next year we turn 30 as an agency, National Service has produced extraordinary results, helping countless Americans succeed in school, find productive work, escape poverty, and achieve their potential in life. Millions of Americans have experienced the transforming impact of National Service, changing their lives in powerful ways and helping them accomplish things that they had never thought possible before. So as we work to defeat this pandemic, strengthen our economy, address racial inequity, address the climate crisis, and meet other needs, National Service and volunteering is needed now more than ever, and we have been there during this time with our communities. So with the guidance of our board and working together with our state and local partners and the American people, we can help build a healthier, safer, and more inclusive and equitable future for all Americans. Thank you for providing me an opportunity to give this report today.
Well, thank you, Michael. You can only imagine if Mike had 5 months instead of 4 months, this report would have gone on and on. So thank you very much. That was amazing. Do either of you have any comments that you want to add to that?
I do not.
Okay. You all set?
All set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Michael. Next, we're going to hear a presentation about one of America's success stories, the implementation of the historic $1 billion investment from the American Rescue Plan and the impact that that investment is having on communities around the country. I'm going to turn this over now to Fagan to lead this presentation. Fagan, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, Kathy. In March of 2021, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, landmark legislation that included unprecedented funding to stop the spread of COVID-19 and respond to the public health, education, and economic crises caused by the pandemic. The bill included a $1 billion investment in AmeriCorps to make significant, targeted investments to provide relief related to the pandemic, with a specific focus on support for underserved and disproportionately impacted communities. For the past 14 months, agency staff worked diligently to implement this legislation and ensure that the resources are used in an efficient and accountable way to achieve positive impacts for individuals and communities. A cross-agency team worked for months to develop a comprehensive multi-year plan. Once the plan was approved, a staggering amount of work was done to get the funds into communities, all on top of the agency's regular responsibilities. As of last month, the agency has already distributed more than $300 million to create new national service opportunities, to stabilize national service grantees, support increases in the living allowances for AmeriCorps state and national and VISTA members, and expand service opportunities. The funding has supported nearly 9,000 new AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps senior volunteers, and more ARP resources will be awarded very soon. In addition to the $1 billion in funding directly provided to the agency by the American Rescue Plan, AmeriCorps has also joined forces with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to launch Public Health AmeriCorps to help meet public health needs of local communities while also creating pathways to public health related careers. Public Health AmeriCorps is supported by a 5-year, $400 million investment from the American Rescue Plan Act. And last month, AmeriCorps made its first round of Public Health Corps AmeriCorps grants to 82 organizations, totaling more than $60 million to support nearly 3,000 AmeriCorps members who will serve communities providing health education, supporting health-related research, assisting with testing and vaccination efforts, addressing the opioid crisis, and so much more. To help understand the impact of these investments on the ground, the team has put together a virtual ARP Impact Tour, so we can hear directly from our AmeriCorps members, AmeriCorps senior volunteers, and program directors across the country. 30 minutes doesn't do justice to this work or this effort, but we hope it will at least give you a snapshot. We will start the tour in New York City with Henry Street Settlement, a nonprofit agency that provides social services, arts programs, healthcare services to New Yorkers. Henry Street Settlement administers a senior companion program that received additional funding through the American Rescue Plan. We will hear first from Barbara Falk, a senior companion volunteer, and then we will hear from her project director, Shannon Scott. Barbara and Shannon, are you there?
Oh, good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
Barbara
having
has
us.
been a senior companion volunteer since August 2018. She provides companionship service, telephone reassurance, escort assistance, and socialization on a weekly basis to her older adult clients. Through these services, she reduces their isolation and increases their ability to socialize. Barbara also participates in the Senior Companion Program Volunteer Support Group, which has been supported by ARP funding. Barbara, first, can you tell us what your typical day of service is like?
Well, since I became a senior companion in 2018, my client liked outside activities. So our typical day, we would meet for him to have his cup of coffee, and he liked being outside. He was a tinkerer. And I think he liked the idea of having a lady hanging around him. Wow.
And what would you be? Go ahead, please go ahead.
So from then we had just different activities that he liked and I enjoyed.
That's awesome. And what would you be doing if you were not an AmeriCorps Seniors volunteer?
I often thought of that, but I learned I was supposed to be a senior companion. One day I was going for training at the Board of Election to be a poll worker. A lady walked up to me and she said, "Are you a senior companion?" And I guess from the look on my face, she knew I had no clue. She proceeded to tell me, I remembered she said Henry Street Settlement. She talked about training in August and how she had clients. I gave her my number. She didn't call. So I Googled Henry Street Settlement and I saw senior companion. I hit that button, left a telephone message, and became after submitting all my documentation and training, I became a senior companion in October of 2018, and it's been great. And Mr. Williams and he liked during the pandemic, senior companion program through Henry Street provided us, we were still able to have our day-to-day meetings because we always met in person. But when the pandemic came, we had to switch gears. We even learned how to video chat, and we constantly kept in contact that way, especially watching Westerns. Mr. Williams loved his Western. I'm now a fan of Rawhide, Big Valley, and Bonanza. Unfortunately, I lost Mr. Williams in October due to health. And Senior Companion Program under Henry Street was there for me too. I now have another client, and we do telephone assurance. We're both new to each other, so right now we're learning each other. It's mostly support. But I enjoy this program. Sometimes I'm scared of what I would be doing if it not for Senior Companions.
Wow.
Thank you.
Barbara, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your service during this time, especially during the pandemic. And you all had to pivot and adjust to keep doing the service, which I think is so important to highlight. We talked a lot about the impacts of isolation of this pandemic on people, and you've been on the front line helping people make through this really terrible time, improving their mental health, and just generally contributing to the resilience of our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we'll move to Shannon Scott, who joined the Senior Companion Program in October 2018 after graduating with her BS in social work from the College of New Rochelle. She has worked with vulnerable populations, including homeless clients, IDD clients, younger adults, and seniors. Due to her deep connections with elders in her community and positive experiences working in social services, she applied for the Senior Companion Program Coordinator position and was recently promoted to manager because of her amazing commitment to the program's mission and ability to connect with volunteers and clients. Shannon, congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you tell us why Henry Street Settlement applied for ARP funding?
Well, Henry Street realized that after returning to service, after COVID quarantines in New York City, we knew that many of our older adult clients had been disproportionately impacted and were desperate in need of supportive services, particularly to reduce the isolation and mental health impacts of COVID. Henry Street Settlement saw the opportunity to expand our services in New York City to grow our volunteer base and provide companionship to more frail or homebound clients, particularly related to the trauma and negative mental health impacts of COVID.
Got it. And what have these additional resources allowed your organization to achieve? What are you looking forward to as a result of this increase in funding?
Some of the things that it helped us to achieve was we were able to hire a COVID case manager. She was able to create more robust services, trainings, and programming for volunteers working with their older adult clients. We've been able to recruit about 15 new volunteers since December, which we've been grateful for since we had lost a lot of people throughout the COVID pandemic, of course, with the impact. We have created programming related to mental health awareness, risk factors, and available resources for both clients and volunteers. We conducted evidence-based mental health screenings on all of our Senior Companion volunteers, as well as their clients, identifying those that needed additional resources or support. Based on needs of our senior volunteers, we also developed a weekly support group that Barbara Folk is also very much so a part of, which was very needed as many volunteers lost clients throughout the COVID pandemic. We're looking forward to continuing to expand our geographic reach within the 5 boroughs of New York City, develop additional programming based on the needs of our volunteers and clients, and to provide more thorough resources and follow up on a lesson of the trauma and PTSD experience that many of our senior population experience in New York City. So we're hoping that we can accomplish this throughout our time with this ARP that we are so very grateful for, which will help us to address the needs that we are trying to meet throughout this COVID crisis.
Wow. Thank you so much, Shannon, and thank you for your leadership. You know, Michael, one of the bigger kind of eye-opening things for me over this retreat is the impact of AmeriCorps seniors and the dynamic team, and the fact that it's one of our oldest programs and also one of our most stable the follow through and commitment of that part of our Corps is just outstanding. So Barbara, Shannon, y'all are the best. Barbara, you're a hero. Thank you so much for being on today. My goodness.
Yes.
Really appreciate y'all.
Thank you,
so
Barbara.
much. Keep on keeping on.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Now we will head to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to hear from Randy Schneider, a Wisconsin Reading Corps AmeriCorps member, and Sadie O'Connor, Program Director of AMPACT, about how ARP funding has helped the Wisconsin Reading Corps expand its reach and impact. Randy and Sadie, you all there?
I see Randy up at the
I
top.
see Randy. Hey, Randy.
Hello.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, there's Sadie.
Okay.
Hey, Sadie.
Hi.
Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Randy is currently a fourth year AmeriCorps member during serving with Wisconsin Reading Corps in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Randy chose to serve because he wanted to gain experience in a school setting working directly with students. As a Reading Corps tutor, Randy supports 17 students, kindergarten to third grade. Randy, can you tell us more about the tutoring work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, I work with the K through 3 kids. It's pretty wall to wall on a given day, from the time school starts to the end of the school day, pulling one kid at a time for 20-minute sessions. We have evidence-based interventions we do with each of the students based on that child's individual needs. Beyond that, I also make it a point to try to foster a love of learning with the kids, to teach them that, to build their confidence and teach them that mistakes are just an opportunity for them to learn, and to just teach them to respect themselves and others and to make good choices.
Got it. And Randy, you've been at this for a while. I don't come across too many fourth year members. So tell us a little bit about the impact that you're making on these young people, and how does the service impact you? How do you experience it?
As far as the impact I'm making on the kids, I see it every day. I've got kids that'll come to me when they first start, claim that they can't read or that they don't like to read. And within a couple of weeks, they're eagerly coming to our sessions. And then eventually we're seeing them, singing, dancing, and hopping around, reading at grade level. I've got kids that are now in 5th or 6th grade that will come and seek me out to say thank
Wow.
you, because the skills they learned working with me are helping them out in the higher grades. And I've even got one student that went from barely talking at all to now using our reading materials to help some members of her family learn to speak English.
Wow.
And
Randy, thanks for sharing that.
absolutely.
My mom was an elementary school teacher, and it's a special person who takes joy in the learning and growth of other people. So thank you for doing what you're doing. The Wisconsin Reading Program that Randy serves is supported through AMPACT, a national nonprofit that incubates and scales evidence-based AmeriCorps programs for maximum impact. Sadie O'Connor is AMPACT's managing director. A graduate of the University of Wisconsin and an AmeriCorps alum, Sadie has dedicated her 18-year career to growing national service in Minnesota and across the country. Under her leadership, AMPACT has grown to become one of the largest administrators of AmeriCorps programs in the nation, with more than 2,000 members serving in 7 states across the areas of education, healthy futures, and the environment. Sadie, why did you apply for the American Rescue Plan resources to expand the Reading Corps program?
Yeah, well, thank you for having us here today. I just want to express gratitude on behalf of our organization for the infusion of these resources and the speed at which AmeriCorps, the agency, distributed these resources to us as grantees, so we could put them into action in communities. We applied for ARP funding because our largest programs that we implement are our Reading Corps and our Math Corps programs. Like you heard Randy talk about, we provide one-on-one and small group tutoring to children to build their foundational reading and math skills, and focusing on children who are not yet at grade level. And the ARP resources really became available at a point in time where we were seeing some of the greatest and deepest needs in our schools because of COVID-19. And we were also pretty challenged by being able to recruit and retain AmeriCorps members. So we really saw ARP resources as this amazing opportunity to really do two things. To one, increase the living stipend for our AmeriCorps members as part of our strategy to improve recruitment and retention and access to AmeriCorps service opportunities. And the second thing, really to expand the reach of our program to be able to serve more students and in more communities. And yeah, we're really grateful that that's what we've been able to do, and specifically what we've been able to do in Wisconsin.
Sadie, thank you for all the ways that y'all been stepping up to meet the need. Particularly with the learning loss we're seeing in our schools and the mental health and the trauma. You and Randy are just doing the work. So we appreciate y'all. The Reading Corps expansion wasn't the only ARP support that AMPACT received. How did ARP funding help your other programs? And what are you looking forward to as the result of those resources?
Sure, yeah. Like Michael, I smile when we think about public health. We were fortunate to receive 2 grants through Public Health Corps. So that will allow us to launch a new program here in Minnesota, where we'll have 150 AmeriCorps members supporting public health agencies. And then we'll have another program that will be in Virginia, Illinois, and California that will be replicating our Recovery Corps program and focusing specifically on the opioid epidemic. So we're really thrilled about that. We're thrilled about the expansion that we will have across many of our programs, but particularly in Wisconsin. The ARP funding has allowed us to expand. In the current school year, we added about 30 tutors, so about 600 additional students we've been able to reach this current year. But going into next year, we'll be growing the Corps from 130 tutors to 300 tutors in about 40 new communities. We've been able to also simultaneously leverage state funding. So we've increased our state appropriation from 1.4 million to 3 million with really strong bipartisan support to help us expand statewide into just more communities, particularly rural communities throughout Wisconsin. So like I said, we're just really grateful for these resources in this infusion right now.
Well, we're grateful for all that you all are doing. And I know that we're going to be studying both the model that you all are building out and kind of deploying. And then Randy, your example just shines through, man. Thank you for being here, both of you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The next stop on our ARP virtual tour is Phoenix, Arizona. Terry Shoemaker is the Vice President of External Relations at the Arizona Food Bank Network, an AmeriCorps Vista project sponsor that is part of the Vista Food Security Initiative. Prior to the Arizona Food Bank, Terry worked at PetSmart Charities and Best Friends Animal Society. She worked at Feed in America from 1997 to 2004 and began her nonprofit career running programs for children at Gleaners Food Bank of Indiana. We got Terry. Hey, Terry.
Absolutely. Hello.
Welcome. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
So Terry, tell me what you're looking forward to as a result of ARP resources.
Well, it's been super transformational for us. We started our Vista AmeriCorps program in 2017, and we had 3 members serving at 2 different sites. And those sites were our regional food bank members, which are kind of like big regional warehouses. And that's where we thought our program was going to stay. But as our food bank members used AmeriCorps Vista members in service to really take some of their programs forward, they noticed that the agencies that they serve, so those are the soup kitchens, food pantries, homeless shelters across the state, that's a network of about 1,000 organizations. Some of those organizations were saying, hey, how can we do that too? So it expanded very quickly for the first couple of years, but we were naturally capped because we only were able to do a certain amount of work. And we ended up having to grow a waiting list of these agencies that wanted to explore this program so that they could help do more to address food insecurity in Arizona. And the infusion of this food security initiative funding has enabled us to clear the waiting list. And we're going from 13 members in service to 30 members in service and 3 Vista leaders to support that service, as well as expanding to at least 20 different sites statewide. So it's just been exponential and truly very diverse in terms of the projects that are going on and how they're going to impact the lives of people who are struggling to find where their next meal is coming from.
Wow. It's a lot of growth at a critical time. How's your blood pressure, Terry?
It's better now. It is better now because I'm not saying no to people who are really interested in having some help. And it's helping those Vista members as well because they're building skills. We've got everybody from doing organic gardening to GIS mapping. And the projects are just so diverse and so critical to these really small organizations who are doing that frontline work at getting food and resources right into the hands of the 1 in 7 Arizonas that struggle with hunger.
Yeah, it's such an important last mile problem. So
Absolutely.
it's incredible. It's incredible to hear how you've tripled your Vista members in 1 year to meet the soaring demand due to increased food security. So thank you so much for your service and leadership, Terry. We really appreciate it.
Thanks to everybody. Thank you for this infusion of funds, which is making all of this work possible and also building our network of really qualified employees to work at food banks and other food rescue and related charities to help all of the folks who are helping the people who are struggling with hunger here in Arizona. So thank you so much for this. It's really been transformational for our entire network.
Thank you. Thank you for being a partner that leverages our core as that employment pipeline as well. Thank you so much, Terry. You take care.
Thanks.
All right, we're coming to the end here. So we'll end our ARP Impact Tour where we started, which is back in New York. We'll hear from one of the 82 organizations that received a Public Health AmeriCorps grant last month. So we're going to bring up Orlando Reboredo, who's the Senior Director of Service Programs for the Community Health Care Association of New York State. He joined that organization in 2009 and the AmeriCorps staff shortly thereafter in 2010. And under his leadership, the program has expanded in size and scope, more than tripling the annual number of members, host sites, and individuals impacted by the program since 2010. Orlando also leads their Health Insurance Navigator program, which works to provide enrollment assistance to individuals and families applying for health insurance through the New York State Health Marketplace. Welcome, Orlando.
Thank you, and an honor to be here representing Chicanes, our federally qualified community health centers, as well as the AmeriCorps team here at Chicanes.
Given that you've tripled your core, I'm going to ask you how your blood pressure is doing as well. Man, y'all are just awesome. Orlando, why did you apply for American Rescue Plan resources?
So as you mentioned, we have a long-standing AmeriCorps program where we place members at federally qualified community health centers in some of the neediest communities across New York State. When COVID hit, everything went on immediate pause. And I actually want to give credit to AmeriCorps for quickly acting on some really key changes to the rules and programmatic requirements that facilitated a lot of what happened that year, particularly in ensuring that the members were able to finish their term of service, even if it was interrupted. We thought that our members were going to be, their service would be paused. But what we quickly found out was that our members were very much needed at the front lines of the community health center's response to COVID-19. Our members actually returned to in-person service, doing COVID testing, doing food distribution at the food pantries that we support that saw the need explode in the immediate aftermath of COVID-19. And those who could not serve in person were actually doing remote work, checking in with patients and things of that nature remotely. So that experience really just highlighted how important this program is. And we ended up recruiting members during the height of the pandemic to support health centers in their response. Fast forward to 2021, and this opportunity for Public Health AmeriCorps comes out, we cannot be more excited at what the possibilities this gave to our program. With the Public Health AmeriCorps, we are going to be increasing our members' living allowance from $16,000 to $26,000, which finally meets that minimum wage criteria, hopefully helping with recruitment as well as retention, but more importantly, being able to open up this opportunity to folks in a socioeconomic status that maybe was not a realistic possibility for them because of their financial considerations. Another thing that we're extremely excited about is the additional resources from the CDC, our great partners in New York with the State Commission and the Department of Health, as well as the other organizations that are going to be participating in Public Health AmeriCorps, and the possibilities that this opens for training and professional development for our members. Obviously, AmeriCorps has always focused on the impact that our members have on the people that they serve and the communities that they serve. But with the Public Health AmeriCorps, there's also an additional focus on how this program impacts the members and their career, professional, and personal development. And we are so excited to have those additional resources because we know that our members, the experience that they receive in this program changes their lives, changes how they view the world, and change how they develop in their careers in the future. So we're very excited about that additional focus and the added resources.
Amazing. Orlando, let me ask you this. So you're increasing stipends, you've grown the Corps, you're tightening the linkage between their service and their next step, whether that's work or education. Like, you've got it all in motion and you're deploying all the best practice. What are you most excited about as you leverage these resources?
I think all of it. A little cheesy, but all of it equally. I think that with the additional resources, it means additional attention to AmeriCorps. And I think that service is so important. And again, service changes you. We're hopeful that, with having an institution like the CDC, for example, here in New York, the Department of Health, institutions like Cornell University, all of a sudden we're seeing institutions that were not familiar with AmeriCorps interested in AmeriCorps and wanting to support AmeriCorps. So we are so excited about that because I think once anyone has that personal experience with AmeriCorps, whether it's as a member or as a patient or an individual, or whether it's as a site supervisor, for example, I think people instantly fall in love with the program and what it represents and the possibilities. So, I think that part is the most exciting part, just being able to promote the program even more and bring more people into the AmeriCorps umbrella.
Well, thank you for your leadership, Orlando. Thank you for leading so boldly, so strongly in this moment. And shout out to your entire team and the entire Corps. I know it's a team sport doing this. So shout out to everybody there in New York. On behalf of the board, we want to thank Orlando, Terry, Sadie, Randy, Shannon, and Barbara for joining us today and for helping us better understand the extraordinary impact that the American Rescue Plan is having in your communities. To say that we appreciate your important work and wish you continued success is probably the understatement of the day. We are just blown away by all of you. Y'all are heroes, and we love your energy, your passion, your commitment. So thank you. Kathy or Alvin, still here? Any questions or comments?
I do. But first, I just want to echo what Fagan just said. Absolutely impressed, thrilled, grateful for everything that you all are doing in your communities, in your states, across the country. You're exactly what we hope for in terms of the impact, in terms of the change, and in terms of the kind of people and leaders that we're hoping AmeriCorps can support. So just thank you so much for doing the hard work that you have. I just want to sort of also express my appreciation for a couple things that Sadie and Orlando, you mentioned in particular, that are really on the minds of our board and our leadership. Number one, just sort of the pace at which resources were deployed. I was really happy to hear that. And I want to commend Michael, and I want to commend all of our staff here at AmeriCorps, because we all know that, especially in the middle of the pandemic, and we're still in the middle of the pandemic, time is of the essence. And moving kind of government processes is not always, the quickest thing. And it really means a lot to hear from you, your recognition that we were able to take quick action to deploy resources quickly. That really means quite a bit. The second thing is the work that you've done to use these resources to increase stipends. That is very much on the minds of this board and our leadership, and looking to you as that example of a way to do that. You need to know that we are going to do everything we can to get additional resources for the agency, but your creativity and your vision to kind of take the resources that are available and already move forward to increase the stipends for members means a lot to us. It's a great inspiration and example to us. So I do actually have a question, and it's for you, Sadie. I think you're still there. So I was just fascinated and excited to hear about your success leveraging state resources. And it sounded like you had almost doubled. If I remember the number, it was around 3 million, I believe, that you said you were getting, and that was done in a bipartisan way, which is crucial. So I'm wondering if you could just tell us a little bit more about how you've gone about securing state resources, but also how you've approached braiding those resources with, and I heard you this as well, not just one AmeriCorps source of funding, but multiple AmeriCorps streams of funding. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think the way that we have approached it is, kind of taking the playbook from the Minnesota Reading Corps that has been successful in securing a fairly large state appropriation to support the work, and marrying that with the federal AmeriCorps dollars and philanthropic dollars also. So really just sort of copying that blueprint. And I will say that the thing that we always come back to is the results that we have for the program and our ability to show that the model truly works. Thanks to the investment, again, of AmeriCorps, the agency, we had a randomized control trial of our program. So we actually have really strong evidence that the model works. So we have that. Plus we have, principals and teachers within our current school systems that can talk about the impact that they actually see with their own data about, how students are growing and progressing. So it's really that impact data that's really compelling legislators and other stakeholders, philanthropic stakeholders, in wanting to make an investment in what works. So
thank you, Sadie.
Pretty simple. Mm-hmm.
You make it sound simple, but we all know it's not that simple. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I just want to join my colleagues in saying how impressed I was. I mean, I wanted to be part of this board, but now I know why I really wanted to be part of this board. And I'd like Barbara in a few years when I decide to retire and I'm home, I want you to come and be my senior companion. We'll find different movies to watch, but I really appreciate it. And just the commitment that you all have really does. It makes our jobs better and easier when we know there's people like you out there doing this great work. It really makes all the difference in the world. And I'm glad to hear it has an impact on you as well as all of the people you serve. So I just want to join my colleagues in thanking all of you for spending some time with us. Zoom has some negative impacts, but it also has this great impact that we're able to hear from people across the country. So thank you. And at this point, I guess we will move on. We have some time left for some public comments. So the way we do this, we are going to ask you to, it's actually on your screen now, but raise your hand using the raise your hand feature on your Zoom. I'd like to remind you to keep your comments to 2 minutes so that we can allow as many people as possible. And we won't necessarily have time to respond to comments of all of our stakeholders, but let me promise you, we'll follow up with the appropriate staff members and core members who can be helpful to you to answer any questions, or what we can answer, we will. So let me start. I don't know. I'm going to turn this over to Kim.
All right, we have a couple of hands raised. Our first one is Austin. Austin, you'll see a prompt, select it, and you'll be allowed to talk.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for allowing me this time to speak. I'm currently a site supervisor, or excuse me, project supervisor in Georgia. And I recently finished serving as a VISTA, and I just want to bring it to the board's attention. I know it's on your radar. You'd mentioned before about looking into raising the stipend. As a lot of sites are, we're having trouble recruiting and bringing people in. And I just wanted to just share my experience as a VISTA. I thought it was great to have that experience and to learn on the job like that. And very thankful for it. Unfortunately, due to the stipend and the way my student loans worked out, with some of them being private loans, I'm actually in a worse financial hole than when I began the year. And even with the Siegel Award, I'm still worse off just because of the way the interest rates going up. My loans have variable rates, and not being able to pay those loans during that year at all, and not getting any forbearance from that private lender, I'll now be paying off more than I would have if I didn't serve as a VISTA. So I just want to raise that concern to the board here and anybody else who might be on the call, that this is a pretty serious issue that could really make it so that VISTAs only come from those people who can afford to be a VISTA. And I think that'd be a tremendous loss for the program. So thank you very much for hearing me out. I do appreciate that.
Thank you, Austin.
All right, next is Angela.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am the program director for the SCP program with Neighbor to Neighbor in South Carolina. And I am a newbie, but I have to tell you, I appreciate this type of forum so much. Every time I attend, I learn something new or become enthused and excited about the program all over again. So thank you so much for doing these. You guys do remarkable work, and I am so proud to be a part of it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And just to circle back quickly to Austin.
Okay.
Austin, we hear you. We appreciate you raising that, and we're working on it, and want to underscore that we hear you.
AB, you're next.
Hi, everyone. My name is A.B. Stewart. My pronouns are they, them, and I want to just begin by thanking you, Fagan, Alvin, Catherine, Michael, and all the others who shared from your programs. I'm coming to you from Little Rock, Arkansas, which several years ago was named the #1 small AmeriCity by AmeriCorps. I'm a 2-year NCCC alum, and over the last several years, I had started and directed an AmeriCorps state program here in Arkansas. And currently, I am serving on the NCCC Alumni Advisory Council, which has just begun. We just had our first meeting this week. Many of you pointed out the multiple outcomes of AmeriCorps service, and sort of underlining that and underscoring that today, namely impact in our communities, and also member development and even strengthened capacity for organizations leveraging AmeriCorps. And I'm curious, now that the strategic plan has been approved, so celebrate that. Are there any thoughts about an agency theory of change for AmeriCorps as a whole that illustrate these multiple outcomes and help align our programs with a national vision?
Do we want to?
Michael, you want to speak to that?
We have a minute or two.
It is a great question. I think if you go to our website and you look at our research and about AmeriCorps, I think we have a bit of a theory of change about how we get the work done. One of the interesting things about AmeriCorps, which I think is a part of our secret sauce, is we are not one thing. We provide people power. We invest in 40,000 locations across the country that's working on everything from education to health in hospitals, working on workforce pathways. So the actual unit of change looks a little different all across the country. But we do think that there is something about combining people power, combining training, providing this core experience that can both transform challenges in communities while also transforming AmeriCorps members. I hope we've done a decent job of articulating it, but it is a really great question for us to take back to the team and make sure that we put an even finer point on it.
Thank you. Kim?
Michelle, you're next.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Michelle Leckett, and I am the CEO for the Be Ready Alliance Coordinating for Emergencies, or BRACE, out of Pensacola. And I just wanted to take a moment and thank the board and thank AmeriCorps for its ongoing support of our organization and of the state of Florida as a community and a state that is frequently impacted by disasters. The AmeriCorps VISTA program has allowed us the opportunity to help long-term recovery groups around the state that have been impacted by Hurricane Irma, Michael, and Sally to increase their capacity with VISTAs who understand the cultural dynamics of their community. And as everyone knows, all disasters are local, and the response at the end of the day falls to the local nonprofits to handle. The AmeriCorps VISTA program has been vital around the state of Florida and through our organization in helping our communities continue to stand up so that disasters are no longer community killers, but just a community nuance and nag. So thank you for funding us. Thank you for paying attention to the fact that our most vulnerable populations impacted by disasters are low-income neighborhoods and those affected by poverty. And we look forward to coming up with even more creative programming in the future. Thank you.
Michelle, thank you very much.
Ellie, you're next.
Hello, sorry, I'm on a poor internet connection. My name is Kelly Daly, and I'm the AmeriCorps Employees Union President, and I would just like to welcome the board. We look forward to working with you. I represent the bargaining unit employees of the agency, and we've provided a lot of input and are pleased that Michael and his team have paid close attention and are willing to work with us. And that I just look forward to meeting all of you in the future.
Kelly, Kelly, thank you for joining us.
Now there are no more hands raised, but I do see a question in the chat. Can the tax structure of the Ed Award be changed so they have a less adverse impact on many members who are already low income earners?
Thank you for that question. It is an issue that has been raised, and we are currently talking with all of our stakeholders in the White House and on Capitol Hill about what can be done to address that challenge.
Thank you. Is this, Kim, if that's all we have, let us know.
Just a moment. Somebody just put in text that I have another one, but her hand is not showing raised. So let me just thumb down and see if I can find her. Elizabeth, can you put your hand, lower your hand and raise it again because it is not showing for me. There we go. Thank you. Just a moment. I'll send you the prompt. Or at least I'm seeing one hand raised. Let me get back up to the top. Nope. Let me try a different way here.
I think that's the question she's on now.
While we are waiting to get the next question, I saw someone in chat mention the senior companion stipend. When we talk about living allowance, we also mean the stipend as well. We have had a conversation where all of us are not pleased with where the senior companion stipend is. and recognize that we need to work with our stakeholders to do what we can to make sure that that is changed.
Right.
And I
assure
need
you
to be
the-
able to talk. Oh, sorry, my apologies.
That's okay. And I just assure you that the board is definitely aware of that. And that was a big part of our conversation yesterday. So thank you for raising that.
Good afternoon. This is Elizabeth Chang. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you so much to all board members. I'm Elizabeth Chang. I'm the Executive Director and Project Director for Asian American Center Frederick. My background is public health for 50 years. It's a long time. I'm very excited, and we do have SCP and RSVP programs. What I want to bring to board attention is that, as you can probably hear my accents, when I first came to this country, I could not speak English. So just after 50 years, a long, long journey. So I want to really encourage, that and recommend the board to really look at our immigrant population, the non-English speaking population. I know the strategic plan focus also on our equities, racial equity issues. It's just a long journey to rise from the basement of a system to the top of the system. So I would like to see that some kind of infrastructure development, technical assistance maybe, to really help bring that development of this journeyman, particularly in public health. As I mentioned, public health, I have community health workers training program. I have the public health volunteers and so on and so forth. So it's just really important that we can bring those together into the RSVP or the Senior AmeriCorps program and also the SCP program. But easy to say, how to make that happen through this grant application process. I did apply. I was not granted because some perhaps it's the evidence-based programs and so forth. So there are many, many organizations that providing community health driven community health, based programming. You all know that. But please look at infrastructure development, developing the new immigrants to be our future volunteers. They have bilingual, bicultural skill set that we cannot ignore. It's far more, valuable, than what we can give them. So right now we are helping Afghan families, helping Ukrainian. We have doctors, we have PhD coming from those countries that certainly when they are eligible, we certainly want to bring them into our volunteer program. This is the best way to serve our country, to be part of, the Americans. And the other thing I want to board perhaps to look at collective impact. Earlier, we talked about funding stream. I am also, actively involved with our community health resources in Maryland. And I know that there are perhaps many different ways that our volunteering, our goals, I think our volunteer services can look at Department of Aging, Department of Children's Services, to bring those resources together with our federal resources. So two things, acculturation process. Thank you.
Thank you. And
thank you.
Alvin wanted to respond to that for a minute.
Very quickly.
You're not on.
Very quickly, Elizabeth, thank you very much for your comments. I just want to quickly address a couple of them. Number one, this morning, the board met with several of our members from the area. And I noticed that some of them were both immigrants, several of them were immigrants and first generation. So I come from a state with a significant immigrant population, as well as individuals who are not English speakers, at least our first language speakers in English. I really appreciate your comments. We'll definitely take them to heart. In the strategic plan. We do talk about reaching out to and including more underserved populations. So I appreciate you flagging that. And the second point you made about collective impact, again, it goes back to the presentations that we heard. Where are there opportunities to leverage additional resources from states, from tribes, from other organizations, and from philanthropy? So the board is very much thinking about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think, are we going to take that? Is this all the time we have? Okay, I wasn't sure if we were done, but I want to take a minute to thank everybody who joined us today, and especially the people who asked questions and made comments. I want you to know that we heard everything that you said, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. This has been an important discussion to strengthen and advance the work of AmeriCorps and to help the agency meet its mission. You'll see all of our social media channels there. I want to thank all of you for joining and for really caring about AmeriCorps, because without you, we couldn't do the work that Michael couldn't do his job. we wouldn't be able to be here. So we really appreciate all of you, the members and the staff, for everything that you do. So thank you. And we're going to bring this meeting to a close. If somebody would like to motion.
So moved.
All right, we are officially adjourned. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.